Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our quarterly PEI collaborative to kick off 2025. Glad to have you all here. I'm Diana Gutierrez, the PEI manager, and we have a lot to cover today. So we are going to dive in. And I'm hoping some more folks will join us as we keep going. And as always, please feel free to enjoy your lunch while we're meeting together today. I know me and my team will be. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. So Andrea, if you want to, yep, we're going to find out who's in the room today. We have a quick poll to find out who's with us and to just learn a little bit about where we all are today. So I thought I'd add a fun little a way of talking about how you're feeling today. So you should see the poll, or you will in a moment. Yes, Andrea pulls up. Okay. So we just want to know what region you represent, who you serve, what best describes your work setting, and then on a scale of cats, how do you feel today? I'm a little obsessed. My team knows this at this point. I have become the cat lady. I went from having 0 cats. I grew up with cats, but then I didn't have cats for a long time. And rapidly, I now have 3 cats. The third one just arriving about 3 weeks ago, literally just arriving on my doorstep, a stray, and we couldn't turn her away. So I've got the oldest one is like 2, then I have like one that's about a little over a year old, and now this little 3-month-old baby kitty, and she's just adorable. So, of course, this scale of cats resonated with me today. Uh, so yeah, let's see. We get people looking at where you are on the scale of cats.
If you're more of a dog person, should I put like one cat being good or no? I'm just playing.
Jose, you made it.
I did.
Yeah, no, so I like dogs too. I'm
Okay,
not
just
against dogs. I
checking.
had I had a couple of dogs for a long, long time before they died, but I do love cats right now.
Okay,
But this is more
gotcha.
about the expressions. Which kitty do you think you feel like today?
Oh,
So take a look on the numbers about which look kind of matches what you're feeling today. And let's see. Oh my gosh, do we have 100% participation, you guys? I don't think this has ever happened before. I am so proud of you all, which means we could just get to end the poll because everybody's done that. So let's share results and see who's with us today. Let's mark this day because that's amazing. But let's take a look. The regions, we've got all 3 regions present. A lot of people covering, most of the people covering the entire county, which is awesome. We even have some friends from outside the county, or perhaps you serve both Riverside and San Bernardino County. So we're glad that you're all here. And oh, great, really pretty even representation across all of our age groups, which is terrific because as you all know, PEI does cover the full lifespan. And today we're going to share with you all those programs that reach each of those age groups. And then looks like we've got a lot of behavioral health and other counties here, some schools in the house. Thank you guys for being here, and lots of our community-based organizations. Um, so thank you guys. And now let's look at the one that's the most important, and that is how we feel on the scale of cats. And I was looking for myself today. I think I'm number 3 today. I'm feeling like I'm number 3. We had a really big event yesterday, and it's been uh, a long week already, and it's only Wednesday. And so there's a lot of you there. About a third of you are feeling it with me. Number 3, a little sleepy. Um, and then we've got people just kind of like an even distribution across all those numbers. So that's kind of fun. So thank you guys for taking a moment to think like a cat. I like it. Um, all right, so let's click to the next slide and just show you what we've got lined up for you today. Like we do every time, we are going to do a trauma-informed systems moment. And then today, we've really dedicated our entire meeting to the MHSA or Mental Health Service Act annual update. For those of you who've been around a while, you've heard this before. So I'm actually going to cover the annual update that we cover all five components of the Mental Health Services Act, but we will take a deeper dive into prevention and early intervention since this is why we're meeting today. So I will go into all of our programs to give you a little bit of information about what's been happening in the last year and any plans we have for the coming year specific to PEI. And then we should have time at the end for our PEI contract providers to give any updates. This is a great time, you guys, to talk about maybe new cycles of programs that you have. If you're recruiting for families, letting everybody know what's available, or if your agency has any other updates or events that you want to share, you're welcome to do so. And then we'll also open the table up to any non-PEI others in the room, providers or otherwise, that have any announcements that they'd like to share as well. Um, On says it's been a long year and it's January. I heard that for reals. This is like a 60-day January is what it feels like. Um, and you need, oh, that's good. You're happy. So one or two, and I love that. All right. So let's move on, and I am going to turn the mic to Andrea Deaton, one of the staff development officers on the PEI team, to talk about TIS.
There we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. As you've come to know, every quarter we do our TIS moment, as Diana shared, and for January, and yes, we are still in January, we're all feeling that, we are talking about collaboration and empowerment. So I'm going to share a pretty quick video with us. It's just under 90 seconds long that talks about the differences between collaboration and cooperation, and maybe why we kind of need both in order to really be most effective in our work. But this is a quick one, so you've got to pay attention while you eat.
The difference between cooperation and collaboration. Cooperation begins with mutual respect, while collaboration begins with mutual trust. Cooperation requires transparency, but collaboration requires vulnerability. Cooperation includes shared goals, but collaboration includes shared values. Cooperation is independent, but collaboration is interdependent. Cooperation is often short-term, while collaboration is often long-term. Cooperation involves the sharing of ideas as a group. However, collaboration involves generating entirely new ideas together. Both cooperation and collaboration are vital for creative work. Collaboration without cooperation can lead to groupthink, but cooperation without collaboration can lead to disunity. However, collaboration plus cooperation means deeper work, more innovation, and better quality.
Right, quick, like I said, right to the point. So anything that stuck out to anyone, any thoughts, anything that really hit you with the kind of collaboration, cooperation conversation? Thanks, Ernalyn. Any thoughts in between those bites?
Um, I think it's very interesting. My name is Monica, and I think it's very interesting because I never see these topics separate, and now I understand the differences between them, and and I know it, combining them it's good, but I understand that collaboration it means like deeper, getting to the organization or most like involved, deeper involved.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. I agree. We kind of tend to use these interchangeably, but they are, I guess now I learned at the root, they are different, not necessarily one better than the other, but we need them both. Thanks, Dakota. Dakota sharing in the chat that about the concept of groupthink. And that's been a new concept that we've been talking about through the month because of this video. Some of us had never heard of that before, and we've talked about different examples with my providers of like how that's shown up in our work, and how that can kind of be detrimental to the community or to our organization when we fall into that too easily. And you're welcome, Dakota. I didn't caption it. It came that way, but I'm grateful that it was there for you. Anything else that stood out to us?
I I think one thing that stood out to me is on the definition of cooperation, where it kind of had it as independent, because you never really think of cooperation that way, but it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
That without developing those stronger kind of connections and relationships to get to where both are combined with cooperation and collaboration. So it was kind of a nice way of looking at that, because I had, think cooperation, you're kind of in it together, but in a sense, you are just independent, in a way from actually the collaboration concept.
Yeah, I appreciate that as I thought about that with my kids, how I'm always like, I just want them to cooperate with me. And it's like, well, I'm not asking them to do something to think independently. I'm asking them to just go with the flow and do what I'm telling you to do. So that really resonated with me too, Mary Jo. Thank you.
Yeah, and Erlen says with both it's shared power.
Yeah. There's where
Yeah.
that deeper work comes in.
Mm-hmm. I like that video. I've seen that a few times now this month, and it is nice to see, gets you thinking a little bit broader each time you see it. So we will be sure to share the link with you all should you want to watch it again or share it with your teams. Any final thoughts about that before we move on? All right, so then let's move on. And today we're going to dive in, and I want to talk with you about the Mental Health Services Act, or we call it MISA here for short. How I'm going to talk about how it funds some of the department programs that we have, how you can participate in giving feedback on the MHSA funded programs that you want to keep or areas you'd want to see changed. And then I'm going to speak a little bit about the Behavioral Health Services Act as well, which was the proposition that was voter approved last March to modernize and replace the MHSA, and that'll come toward the end of the presentation. Next slide. So MHSA was a 2004 ballot proposition that created a 1% tax on millionaires to generate dedicated funding for the transformation of public mental health care. And this will be the same funding process for BHSA as well. It's just got a new name and some new requirements. By law, the county must look at other funding sources first before using MHSA dollars. And this usually creates some kind of braided funding streams. So think of it just like different pieces of hair in a braid, combining funds from different areas to create a single budget for projects or programs. And as a result, the department program development and MHSA plan development coincide. So typically the program ideas come first, and then we explore which funding streams can cover the costs. And getting community feedback on MHSA funded programs is part of the law. So we accept feedback all year round, but this time of the year is when we formalize the process with these kinds of presentations. And although BHSA became active this year, the first BHSA integrated plan is not due until July of 2026. So this is going to give us some time to prepare for that change. And so in the meantime, we're still following MHSA laws and guidelines and the plan that we have in place. Next slide. So what is it? It is primarily a 500 to 700 page report that describes MHSA funded programs and their outcomes that's authorized by the Riverside County Board of Supervisors before it gets submitted to the state. And there's two types of MHSA reports. There's a 3-year plan, which includes goals over a 3-year period, and annual updates, which serve more like progress reports. This year's plan is an annual update. MHSA is like a book that has chapters. So each chapter we'll refer to as a component of the MHSA frame. and each component addresses a different part of the public mental health service system. We're going to briefly look at 4 of them, and then because you're in my PEI quarterly meeting, we are going to take a quite deeper dive into PEI programming that I want to share some outcomes with you all specific to PEI programs. Next slide. Yeah. So the first component is community services and supports. Each component receives a specific percentage of county's MHSA funds. CSS receives the most, and it includes the high intensity case management and therapy program called Full Service Partnerships, or FSPs. And then the second largest is PEI, which receives 19%. PEI is for people who don't meet the full criteria for a behavioral health diagnosis, and it was designed to prevent the onset of serious mental illness. And we're going to review highlights, like I said, a little bit later in this presentation. So quickly, I'll share some of the CSS highlights for this year. So the crisis system of care includes 24/7 crisis support you can access, any community member can access by calling 951-686-HELP. Which helps provide access to that around-the-clock behavioral health mobile crisis team. And we also have 3 regional 24/7 walk-in mental health urgent cares in Riverside, Paris, and Palm Springs. And then Community Assistance Recovery and Empowerment Act, or known as CARE Court, launched in October of 2023. And this court team serves consumers with schizophrenia spectrum disorders who are court-ordered into supportive treatment. And they celebrated their first graduate in this past December of 2024, one of the first in the state. Riverside has been leading the charge in this effort. And as of this month, over 400 people were referred and 116 people became clients of that program. These are the remaining MHSA components: innovation, workforce education and training, and capital facilities and technology. Innovation plans are big, time-limited research projects that require additional state approval to access the funds. WET uses a portion of CSS funds to develop the public behavioral health workforce. And then CFTN uses a portion of CSS funds to develop the infrastructure for programs and services. So just a couple of highlights from each of these components. Next slide, Andrea. In February of last year, 2024, MHSA admin successfully completed the state review process to receive $29 million in MHSA Innovation Plan funds for the Mindful Body and Recovery Program, which is an eating disorder intensive outpatient and education program. This level of care had been missing in public behavioral health, and they started implementing in this past September. WET, Workforce Education and Training, centrally coordinates one of the largest behavioral health internship programs in the Inland Empire. Last year, they received 120 applications and accepted 37 master's level and bachelor level students from 10 different universities. 42% of them were bilingual, over 50% of those being Spanish speakers. Our department hires the majority of those graduates, so that is a great way for us to build that competent workforce. And that's reflective of our community. Renovation is complete on an augmented adult residential care facility on Franklin Avenue in Riverside. The facility has 84 beds and integrated on-site FSP services. That's that full service partnership. And it's scheduled to open in March. And then the Mead Valley Wellness Village broke ground last year, 2024, which is a campus of behavioral health services, providing a continuum of behavioral health care from outpatient to residential in a single location. And in addition, the village will provide some physical healthcare services as well as employment support. Okay, now that they're out of the way, we're going to take a deeper dive into the PEI section of the MHSA plan so that I can share with you just a little bit about all of the PEI things we have going on right now. So next slide. This is a quick view of our full PEI plan, which has 7 work plans, and in each plan are multiple programs that are being implemented, and everything that's offered is free of charge, fully funded through MHSA. So this next slide shows an overview of each of our plans and how many people have been impacted by a PEI program, both our general outreach as well as a PEI service specific. So this is, again, just the one fiscal year, 2023 to 2024. almost 125,000 Riverside County residents benefited from a PEI service. And then this next slide is taking a look at some of the demographics. Now, this is specific to people that participated in a PEI service. So not just general outreach, but they actually enrolled in one of our many programs and completed those programs. So that is 3,495 individuals that received one of those ongoing services. And then you can see the breakdown, age, gender, and we always take a look at comparison to the race ethnicity components in our county census, because PEI is intended to target underserved cultural populations in Riverside County. We don't get census data for all of our cultural populations because we have, of course, like spirituality and faith-based. It's not like a crossover for all the programs. So that's why it's looking at race ethnicity specific. And we try to see, are the percentage of participants in a PEI program in alignment with what we would expect, knowing the census breakdown of our county. And so you can see where we match up or where we might need to do a little bit more outreach, or where we're actually making a large impact in that community and serving them at a higher rate than even they show up in the census. So that's why we take a look at that. Next slide. This is, we're going to take a deeper dive into Work Plan 1, which is the largest of our work plans. So you can see these are all the programs that are in there. So I'm going to talk really fast. You guys know me. I talk fast anyway. I'm going to get through this, but feel free to drop questions or comments in the chat, or even to raise your hand and interrupt me is perfectly fine. And then, of course, time at the end, we'll have opportunity for any of that Q&A as well. Okay. So let's move on to the next slide. Prevention and Early Intervention funds the department's cultural competency program. And as I said, we do have 10 underserved target cultural groups. These are the 10 that each PEI provider is designed to specifically target to access the services of PEI, and cultural competency targets those populations in terms of building bridges between those communities and the department. So education to go back and forth, what's available so they know what they have available to them. And then what does the department need to know to make itself more welcoming, being a place where folks from each of these groups feel seen, heard, that's reflective of their experience, so that when they need to help seek and get behavioral health supports, that our department is a place that they feel comfortable and safe to come. And so they have work groups for each of these groups, as you can see there, that all sort of fall underneath the larger umbrella of the Cultural Competency Reducing Disparities Committee. And that's where some of that work is done, developing initiatives and ideas and making recommendations to the department about how we best achieve those things. So if you're interested, if you're not already engaged with those groups and you want to be, let us know and we'll get you that information. Okay, next up is the Asian American Pacific Islander Mental Health Resource Center. In 23-24, that program was offered by the Paris Valley Filipino American Association, and they hosted 26 mental health events, nearly 400 people in attendance, and was very well received, as you can see, by the community members that attended. That program is still up and running, but has transferred to a new provider, and that's SSG, or Special Services for Groups. And so we still have those services up and running, and they're doing a large amount of it, both at their resource center as well as out in the community. The Inland SoCal Crisis and Suicide Helpline and 211 is now our access for the community to access our mobile crisis response. So that number is not correct. I will tell you that. That's a typo. We're going to get that corrected. I know, Rosa, you're on the call and you're probably like, that can't be true. That's not true. They received a lot more calls than that. And I will get you that number. But they have seen a huge increase in the number of calls that come in, especially with the new partnership and media campaign around the community accessing mobile crisis. So thank you. And they also have a dashboard that you have access to. It's open to the community, so I want to check out their website and you can see the way that they're providing supports. And then Network of Care is a website that the department has supported where you can, it's similar to 211, has lots of different resources, behavioral health and otherwise. So you can go check it out. It's networkofcare.org and get access to lots of resources. You can see people are engaging with that page. And then Work Plan 1 is our education stigma reduction plan. And so this is where our May is Mental Health Month events that the department hosts each year are funded. So we, this last year, the theme was the art of wellness, and we had 3 events. Thanks, Rosa, for putting that in there. And Orly, the number, thank you. Yes, much more than 1,300. Thank you. And so we had an event at Fairmount Park. That was our Western region. Coachella Valley History Museum was where the Desert Region event was, and Valley-wide Regional Park was in Mid-County. The events feature free food, culturally diverse music, art, and activities, and we engaged about 3,800 community members in mental health, wellness, education, and resources. And this particular year, we also highlighted submissions from Riverside County's Directing Change entries. So all of our youth were able to have some of their videos screened at each of the events. And we had about 300 partner agencies across the county that shared services and resources to community members at each of these events. To help increase the reach in desert and mid-county regions, we did have a couple contract providers that had strong ties to their local communities that led outreach and coordination of volunteer efforts to support these events. And so Riverside Latino Commission was in the desert, and California Family Life Center covered Mid-County and really helped us get the word out about those events. Next slide. Continuing on, so Dare to Be Aware. In February of 2024, right, because we're reporting out on fiscal year 23-24, we actually made a change for the first time to this event. Normally it's 1 event a year. We made it 2 events last year, 1 in Riverside and 1 in Palm Springs, with the goal of trying to increase access for our desert students. We had 500 people or kids come to this event from 23 different high schools. The theme was healthy relationships with presentations by Jeremy Bates and Jason Tate, very well received. And we just yesterday, I referenced having a large event that made us all tired, was the next one. And so even though I'm technically not supposed to report on it, I just want to be able to share with you that we had our 2025 Dare to Be Aware, and this one was at the Riverside Convention Center this year, yesterday. And it was fabulous. It was all focused on different creative, expressing yourself through the arts. And so we had a great keynote speaker that could talk about living with mental illness, and also just very inspiring. And then the kids were able to do a ton of art and creative ways of looking at how to channel their mental health and wellness. So it went really, really well. Stand Against Stigma is a program that focuses on sharing lived experience of mental illness and showing what recovery really looks like and how individuals can live successfully with mental illness. There were 14 presentations held countywide with nearly 250 community members receiving this information, big increase from the previous year. And we're seeing the results of the impacts are that people have show an increased willingness to seek mental health services, an increase in affirming attitudes regarding recovery about mental health conditions, and a decrease in stigmatizing attitudes, which is the whole goal of the program, to reduce that stigma and create safer spaces in our communities for individuals that are living with mental illness. Up to Riverside is our multimedia campaign, mental health education and awareness, stigma reduction, suicide prevention, and a strong focus on substance use as well. So we get great receptivity this year. They did something new, which was introducing Spotify as a new tactic. While the impressions there, it's worth noting that the Spotify companion banner outperformed the industry benchmark of 0.05%, which generated 853 site sessions. So we're kind of surpassing what they would have expected an ad would have done at Spotify, so that people are clicking it. They're seeing it on their radio and they're checking out what we've got. And so that is awesome. Next slide. Okay, the Promotores de Salud Mental y Bienestar program. This our community mental health promoters give 1 hour mental health presentations, conduct outreach, and have one-on-one consultations in non-stigmatizing community settings. They have the 10 topics include anxiety, depression, mental health, schizophrenia, self-care, substance use, suicide prevention, trauma, and bipolar disorder. The Promotores provider is Visione Compromiso, and then our other current mental health providers include SSG for the Asian American Pacific Islander community, Rishibishi for the Native American, and the Sahaba Initiative for Armenia or Middle Eastern North African community. We were planning to release an RFP to fill the other target groups because that's always been the goal. But now with changes coming through BHSA, all of this has been placed on hold until we have more clarity about the planning and what can and cannot be included going forward. In 23-24, the Visione Compromiso contract was expanded to and awarded to also serve mid-county, so that they're now county-wide. So they saw a 67% increase in presentations and an 82% increase in the participation from folks. SSG did 47 presentations to over 1,000 attendees. Our Native American provider, Rishibishi, provided 143, and Sahaba was just starting out. So they got started mid-year last year, which is why we don't have numbers for them there. They got staff onboarded, they got their training going, and they are up and running now. So they're out in the community today. And then this final program, Integrated Outreach and Screening, this has been the PHQ-9 Depression Screener that we've been in partnership with the community health centers for several years now. Every patient that walks through the door gets screened for depression so that we can reach folks at the earliest time possible to be able to support their behavioral health needs, and particularly if thoughts of suicide are part of the picture. And you can see the amount of screenings that are being done, almost 290,000 in 1 year. So that's pretty great. Next slide. Also included in our work plan 1 is all of our suicide prevention activities. So you are all hopefully aware that we have a Riverside County strategic plan for suicide prevention called Building Hope and Resiliency. Alongside with it, the Riverside County Suicide Prevention Coalition. That is a group of community members and leaders that are bringing the plan to action and working on particular initiatives throughout that plan. Let's see, it's co-led. The coalition is co-led by Behavioral Health. I sit as a co-chair alongside my partner, Rebecca Antion from Public Health. Now, in the month of September, which is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, we delivered 451 trainings that included adult mental health first aid, mental health 101, building resiliency and understanding trauma, know the signs, self-care and wellness, safe talk, and assist. And for the second year, the coalition was a regional lifesaver sponsor for AFSP, or American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, in their Out of Darkness walks. So we helped to support the events at Fairmount Park and Palm Desert. We had an outreach table there. We were not only sharing information about the work we're doing, but we were also gathering names about survivors of suicide loss that might now be in a place that they want to give back and support new loss survivors. And as a result, we did bring in a training that we just had earlier this month, where we trained 23 community members that are survivors of suicide loss in how to facilitate a peer support group. And we are going to be helping those individuals get those groups up and running. It was one of the areas of the largest gap in our suicide prevention research was in postvention, supporting people who are impacted by suicide loss. So now that we're going to have these folks trained, we're going to get groups up and running. and make those available. And you'll all be able to receive that information on a regular basis. And then we also have launched another new initiative called the Clinical Bereavement Support for Survivors of Suicide Loss. We trained 17 therapists in Riverside County in a 8-session module program that was really specifically created for our county by working closely with Dr. Sally Spencer, who is a nationally recognized leader in the field of suicidology and suicide prevention. And we trained those folks to be able to deliver these 8 sessions at no cost to Riverside County community members who are impacted and grieving a suicide loss. So individuals can find it on the TIP website at, I think it's tiprivco.org, and go to resources, and there is a sign up sheet where they'll get contacted to get connected to a therapist. We also partnered up with IEHP in Molina, and they had several of their therapists are part of that 17, and that is now an additional benefit for IEHP and Molina members as well. And they would access all of it through the TIP website. The SPC hosted its 3rd annual conference thank you, Mindy, for putting that up, with approximately 400 attendees and others watching on the live stream as well. And this past October, our theme was Best Practices in Youth Suicide Crisis Response. We had a keynote presentation that talked about the essentials of suicide prevention in responding to a crisis individually and collectively, as well as a comprehensive presentation on our department's crisis system of care. We had a youth panel with 5 transition age youth that talked about their personal experience with suicide ideation and how they accessed supports. And we recorded the main room activities. So if you missed it, you can catch it all at the rivcospc.org website. Just scroll down to the bottom of that main page, and it's the first video that sits there for you to watch. And then really exciting, hopefully you all already received it. We just launched brand new in January of 2025, the Coalition Connection, a new newsletter that will be focused specifically on the Suicide Prevention Coalition and give quarterly updates on all the subcommittee activities and initiatives. We'll give information about suicide prevention best practices and other information that would be helpful to the community. And then we'll include resources and upcoming events as well. So if you did not get it from us, let us know and we'll make sure that you do get it. So we now will be continuing our PEI newsletter, the PEI Pulse. And then in addition to that, now there's the Coalition Connection that's more focused on suicide prevention. Our next quarterly meeting, you can see there and sign up for it at that QR code, is April 23rd. We are going to be focusing in on strategies to support African-American young people, where we're seeing increased suicide ideation and attempts. And so we brought in someone who's specializing her research in this area. And so very excited to bring that to you all. So please sign up. Okay, next slide. Suicide prevention and community training. So the number on the previous slide, 451, that was simply for the month of September alone. This is what it looked like for the whole fiscal year. So you can see we have done quite a bit of training this year. And as a result of all of that for fiscal year 23-24, we added a total of 1,510 helpers to our Riverside County community, in addition to all we've served before. So we're always looking to train more. Our goal is to train everybody who lives and works in Riverside County. So we would love your help in getting the word out about these trainings, getting people signed up for trainings. And if you have any connections or links or ideas and suggestions about how we get the word out, please let us know. All right, we're going to move into now Work Plan 2 that focuses on parent education and support. Our Work Plan 3, Early Intervention for Families in Schools, has one program in it at this time that is on hold. It was interrupted. I'm kind of skipping a little bit, so I'll get to that in a second, I guess, but we kind of combined them. So next slide will give you a little bit more information. Carolyn Wiley Center provides Triple P for us, or the Positive Parenting Program, for parents with kids between the ages of 2 and 12. And then they also offer a teen version for adolescents between 12 and 16, the parents of adolescents between 12 and 16. Countywide, the program served 686 parents with an average program completion rate of 83%, which is pretty awesome. And we saw improvements in their parenting practice and decreases in the behavior problems with their children. Our preschool 0 to 5 program also operates the RUHS PEI mobile service. So it encapsulates both mobile as well as clinic-based services. And in total provided those services to 300 children, PCITs, parent-child interaction therapy, as well as other mental health services and supports. 22 parents received parent consultations. And as you can see, the vans were not in use this year. We did a big changeover. If you remember, we used to have those really large RVs, and they needed repair and replacement. And we also needed something that was a little bit more amenable to therapists driving these things. So they downsized and now have Sprinter vans. There's a little glimpse of a Sprinter van there. And those Sprinter vans have been a process to get in place, but we are anticipating seeing one of those vans in the next 4 to 6 weeks out on the road, and then slowly expand to countywide. So be on the lookout for that. Strengthening Families is a prevention program for kids between the ages of 6 and 11 and their families. It's a family program. The goals include strengthening parenting skills, building family strengths, enhancing youth school success, and reducing risk factors for behavioral, emotional, and social problems in high-risk children. The program has 14 sessions, and the program completion standard is defined as at least one caregiver per family having attended 10 or more sessions. SFP in fiscal year 22-23 enrolled 117 families and overall had an 85% completion rate. So pretty amazing. And outcomes showed children's conduct and emotional problems were improved, parental involvement improved, and that families were overall strengthened. Now, the Peace for Kids program, this is the work plan 3. It's a school-based program that's designed to improve protective factors for children, teach parents effective communication skills, and build social support networks, and empower parents to be the primary prevention advocates in their children's life. And it's based usually in a school setting. And so previously we've talked about this. We released it for competitive bid in May of 22, and we did not receive any bids. So then I had some staffing changes, some things got put on hold, and then BHSA passed. So with the changes in the law, it's not, we haven't made any final decisions, but everything's being put on pause until, like I said, we have a better understanding about what can be funded and what is not able to be funded through the new law. Moving on to program work plan 4, this is our transition age youth project that includes several programs, as you can see here. And the first one up is our TAY Resiliency Project. That includes several programs. And we'll start with Stress in Your Mood is the first, which is an evidence-based early intervention program to treat depression based on the concepts of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's provided in settings where the youth feel comfortable, most often in schools. We had 244 participants enroll and 68% completed. We saw a decrease in depression, psychiatric status improved, and overall functioning improved. So kids are doing well when they take this program. This is one of our early intervention programs. So these youth are identifying with a diagnosis of depression, and most often by the end of this service, they no longer meet medical necessity criteria. Peer-to-peer is the second component of this project, and they include a few different pieces. So coping and support training, or CAST, is a structured program that goes over a variety of coping skills to support young people. They had 83 students that served, and 75% of them completed, seeing improvements in self-esteem, their improved personal control of negative moods, and improved school performance. And then The Tay Resiliency Project also includes these other services. Speakers Bureau, so these are young people between the ages of 18 and 25 that have their own lived experience that now go talk to other young people 16 to 25 about that experience. Mentoring, so one-on-one supports for young people, and LGBTQ support groups. So you can see there the impacts that they made in these very strategic areas with good outcome. Next slide. Outreach to runaway youth, safe places. So Operation Safe House targets the Tay population that are runaway on the street with the goal of returning them to a home environment. Outreach includes training and education for business owners, bus drivers, and other community agencies to become aware of at-risk youth who may be homeless or runaway and seeking support. Trained individuals assist youth in connecting them to safety and additional resources. And last year, 3,289 individuals were provided services by Safe House, and a total of 117 youth were placed into a safe place location. Active Minds Send Silence Packing is a traveling exhibit. It's an immersive experience utilizing mixed mediums to guide the visitor through the mental health journey of several American youth and young adults in an effort to increase awareness and reduce stigma associated with mental health concerns and suicide. PEI supports these on local college and university campuses each year. And this year, both La Sierra University and College of the Desert hosted exhibits, and they were very well received by the staff and students on campus. Gives the campuses opportunity to expose more students to this information and reduce stigma of asking for help. The Teen Suicide Awareness and Prevention Program has strong relationships with our school districts throughout Riverside County to establish suicide prevention clubs on campus. So the primary goal is to prevent teen suicide by providing training and resources to students, teachers, counselors, parents, and community members. The youth on school campuses are trained in suicide prevention, and suicide prevention is provided to parents and school personnel as well. They conducted 89 suicide prevention trainings this year to almost 2,900 high school and middle school students. They trained 347 school personnel and community members and coordinated 144 suicide prevention campaigns that had an impact to over 114,000 young people across Riverside County. So pretty awesome. Next up in work plan form is directing change. The Directing Change program and film contest is part of California's mental health movement with Take Action for Mental Health, and is available to young people throughout the state of California between the ages of 14 and 25 that are asked to create public service announcement films focused on mental health awareness or suicide prevention. And these videos can be entered at the state. If you want to click the next slide. At the state, there was 1,315 films submitted by 209 schools, which represents a little over 3,800 young people. And in this same year, Riverside County had 203 of those films were ours from 26 schools or CBOs, from a total of 580 young people. So we regularly put together a lot of outreach to encourage our young people to submit films, and they show up pretty well at the state. Our partnerships with RCOE and public health continue because what we do is not only help kids know about the program and submit films, but we work closely with the state. They send us all of Riverside County films, and we host local judging and a local screening and recognition ceremony. So more of our young people get recognized, and we have a semi-formal event at the Fox Theater where we treat it like the Oscars, and the kids get to come with their families and their schools and be dressed up and get some dinner and see their film screened, and then have another opportunity for a local win. And so this year, we had another cool part was that a local Rotary Club from the desert requested to become a sponsor for this event this year. So they contributed cash prizes to the local winners. which is so very
Stuff like
cool.
this happens. Like, that's weird.
Um, and so Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Riverside County took first place in the suicide prevention category for a film called Speaking Up, both in our local recognition ceremony as well as the statewide contest. And I believe we have that film to share with you here today. Then we also, before we show it, just hang tight. At our ceremony, we hosted for the first time an art gallery walk. So the Directing Change program during COVID added these monthly activities. Normally, this is an annual contest. All entries are due March 1, so kids can still enter for this coming year. In addition to that, they added the monthly prompts. So kids can add multimedia entries from film to music to written word, art, to match the monthly prompt, and they have opportunities to win cash prizes for that as well. So we added an art walk for those monthly entries, and people were able to see all of the Riverside County winners for that. And we're going to do that again this year. So if you didn't get to see it, we encourage you to come. But we did want to share with you this first place winner from Eleanor Roosevelt High School that took top place both locally and at the state. So I'll stop talking so you can check out this great video.
My friend Chris struggled with depression for the majority of his life, but lately he's been pushing us away and keeping to himself more often. He's always been the happy-go-lucky type, and when I asked him about it, he simply brushed it off as a mood swing and didn't want to talk about it further. It was always a sore spot to bring up in conversation, since whenever we did actually talk about it, he always just seemed to shut off and avoid us. Whenever we looked at him, it always seemed like he wanted to get help, but he just didn't know where to get it from. And as the year continued, he only seemed to get more and more detached from us, and eventually, I asked the question. It was something so simple, yet something all of us were afraid of asking, but it saved his life that day, and it got him the help he needed. Don't forget you are never alone. Text TEEN to 839-863. There is help.
Pretty terrific, right? It's always so wonderful to watch the films and see what our young people are thinking about and how they put it together in such a powerful way. Yes, Eastvale representing Ernalyn, thank you. Okay, so let's move into the next work plan, which is our work plan 5, first onset for older adults. That includes several programs. So CBT for late life depression is another early intervention service that reduces suicidal risk and depression. It is an active, directive, time-limited, and structured problem-solving program. This year, 120 participants were served in the late life depression program, and we saw depression significantly decrease after participation in the program. Our current providers are the Inland Caregiver Resource Center and countywide, and then the center is doing that for us in the desert. PEARLS, or the Program to Encourage Active Rewarding Lives for Seniors, is a program that also addresses depression, but a little earlier in its development. The idea here is as a prevention service, taking a look at assisting individuals with problem solving, with getting behaviorally, socially engaged and activated, because we know that those are the things that will reduce the likelihood of depression. 109 participants were served in this program countywide, with 56% of them successfully completing the program, and we saw depression and anxiety symptoms significantly decrease. And Inland Caregiver Resource Center does that for us as well. We have a great partnership with the Riverside County Office on Aging, and they do a couple of different programs for us. And so the Care Pathways program is a 12-session support group for caregivers of older adults. And so the people in the program often are older adults, but also may not be. They may be caregiving for an older adult. And so there were 133 people enrolled in that program, with 75% of them completing. And then Healthy Ideas, CareLink Healthy Ideas is another program that they do for us. And there were 23 older adults enrolled in that program. We saw depression symptoms and feelings of distress decrease in both of these programs. And the CareLink program also provides some additional case management and other resource supports for these families as well. Next work plan is work plan 6 for trauma exposed services. And this includes a few programs. So cognitive behavioral intervention for trauma in schools, or CBITS, is a therapy group intervention that aims to reduce children's symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and depression that are caused by traumatic experiences. 313 students enrolled in the program, with 84% completing. Depression scores decreased, and 77% of the youth agreed or strongly agreed that the program prepared them to cope with stress if something difficult happens in the future. And you can see there who's our provider. We have Haruba Unified, Safe House, SSG, and the Riverside Latino Commission are providing those services for us throughout the county. Now, CBITS has been a program we've had from the beginning of PEI implementation, and over the years, the developers of CBITS have expanded their research, and because the CBITS is for youth 10 to 15, they've expanded their research and developed an adaptation that is now an evidence-based practice for 5 to 10-year-olds, and that's called Bounce Back. And that was widely well received in our previous community planning processes here in Riverside County, and we are now in the process of trying to get this program up and up. We'll see. That's the goal. There's an RFP out right now. So if that is something that your agency is interested in, you got about another week before they're due. And we are looking forward to that opportunity. Seeking Safety is a present-focused coping skills program that's designed to help people with a history of trauma and substance abuse. It can be conducted in group or individual format for female, male, or mixed gender groups, for people with both substance use and dependence issues, for people with post-traumatic stress disorder, and for individuals with a history of trauma but that do not meet criteria for PTSD. For our adults in Riverside County, this program is known in the community as Seeking Strength. For 16 to 25-year-olds, it's Seeking Safety. That's done by Safe House for us. 154 people were enrolled in this program this year, with 79% of them completing the program. PTSD symptoms decreased and their positive coping increased. So that is a wonderful program. And then TIS, or Trauma Informed Systems. You guys all experienced this with us. If you're a PEI provider, you've been to the training. If you come to any of our meetings, you get to be reminded about trauma-informed systems regularly. And here in the system, it's a required training. Our TIS 101 is required for all behavioral health staff. The focus of this is about recognizing that trauma impacts all of us, including staff. And how do we ensure that we have work settings that account for how people walk into our space and how we support one another so that we can be the best at the work that we're doing. And so we always want to take a little bit of time to recognize that we are whole human beings, and that what happens outside of work often comes alongside us when we show up at work, and how do we support each other and still get the work done, right? Okay. We're getting to, Andrea says we're added 21 new trainers throughout the behavioral health department, and we'll hold trainings in the desert as well for the first time. So yippee. All right. That's awesome. Okay. Last work plan. This is exciting. We have several initiatives here. Mamas y Bebés is an evidence-based, or Mothers and Babies is an evidence-based mood management program for pregnant and postpartum. It originally targeted Latino women, but we have now expanded this program to also target the African American community. They use cognitive behavioral strategies to decrease depressive symptoms and to decrease the likelihood of postpartum depression. 255 participants enrolled, with 91% completing the program. That is fabulous, especially when you think about these are moms with young little babies, and they are showing up. They are wanting to be in this program. For this year, 83% of them were Latina. We are looking to increase our African American women that are participating here. the program works. Depression significantly decreases. There's improved connection between mom and baby, and that's what we want to see. So we are developing some strategies with our providers to look at how we can better improve this program delivery to African American women and make it make sense for both of these populations. The Building Resilience in African American Families, or BRAF project, is a multi-level prevention program for youth, both male and female, between the ages of 11 and 13. It included a 9-month rites of passage program for youth, cognitive behavioral therapy, and a Guiding Good Choices parenting program. It was available in Western and Desert this year. And we had 24 boys participate with a 71% completion. And we did have a girls program as well. And I believe we had, sorry, my notes are not in here. I think we had about 11 girls finish that last year. And then, we've done this program for a lot of years. And over the years, we've seen a change in enrollment, participation, and lots of feedback coming from the community, coming from the providers, and taking a look at data and needs across this program. And so the decision was made to remove this program from the PEI plan. And currently, we are working alongside our cultural consultant and the African American Family Wellness and Advisory Group, or AFWAG, which is part of cultural competency, to get a better sense of the current needs of the African American families. The feedback really adds up that it's not meeting the need. This program, while it had lots of great elements to it, and it's no longer meeting the need. And so we want to find out what will and gather information. So we're in the process of releasing an RFP to find a group to do focus group or get feedback from the community itself. What kinds of things are needed in the African American community as it relates to behavioral health services, and what policies, procedures, practices need to be in place so that the African American community feels welcomed, feels connected, and more likely to seek help from behavioral health. And so we're in the process of gathering all of that data and then taking a look at what services are needed. And that wouldn't be exclusive to PEI. It really is taking a more department-wide comprehensive look at what are the needs and how do we best meet those needs. So while this project itself will be removed from the plan, we are still looking toward how do we best serve and meet the needs of the African American community. So more to come on that. We'll keep you posted as we're going forward. And then the next project here is our Celebrating Families, or Strengthening the Circle, which is a comprehensive program for the Native American population, which includes an 11-week family-based program called Celebrating Families that teaches families healthy living and healthy relationships and works to break the cycle of addiction while also including cultural teachings. CBT is also offered to participants or community members, that's cognitive behavioral therapy, who are screened and qualify for PEI services. And then annually, they also host a larger community event called GONA, or the Gathering of Native Americans. And in this community-driven planning process, a theme or topic is selected, and the community comes together to learn about historical trauma and heal through cultural ceremonies and traditions. A total of 126 Native American individuals were served during fiscal year 23-24 through both GONA and the Celebrating Families programs. And then our final program to highlight in Work Plan 7 is KITE, or Keeping Intergenerational Ties in Ethnic Families. It's an evidence-based program that was originally called Strengthening Intergenerational Ties in Immigrant Families, or CITIF. It's a curriculum that's designed for Asian Americans that teaches behavioral parenting skills to improve relationships between generations. There were 5 KITE classes offered in 23-24. 2 were in Chinese, 2 in Tagalog or English, and 1 in Korean. There were 67 participants enrolled, with 81% completing the program. 21 workshops were offered that over 270 community members attended. And overall feedback, 92% of participants were satisfied with the KITE program. They demonstrate increases in overall relationship scores, parental involvement, and positive parenting as well. The final PEI thing I want to share in the next slide is our annual summit. And many of you were there with us this year. And this is designed specifically for PEI contracted providers or providers in the department that are for PEI services. We come together once a year and learn about, really the purpose is to address challenges providers may be facing in the past year, provide skills that can directly apply to their work, educating all of our providers about all the PEI programs and increasing understanding about how your particular program fits in with the larger plan. We always aim to increase collaboration, partnership, and referrals between our providers and recognize the contributions of our providers as a way really of celebrating the amazing work that's being done, and then get us all motivated and ready for the year to come. And so last summer we did this in the desert. We had the theme of working together with Mary Obade as well as Dr. Yvonne Ator that gave powerful presentations. And then we had a panel discussion from our cultural community liaisons that talked about helpful and effective engagement strategies for their particular underserved community. So it was really fun, and we're hopeful for our next one this coming summer. Okay, so that was our deep dive into PEI, but I'm not done yet. I've got a little bit more that I want to share with you about what's coming next. This is, like I said, part of our stakeholder process that we're required to do by the MHSA law. And so what's next? There are 2 formal opportunities for the community to express their opinions on the plan. The first is the 30-day public posting of the draft plan, and this is going to occur in April. And then it's posted on the department's MHSA webpage. Feedback can be given electronically. And then the next opportunity is providing either written or verbal feedback at a public hearing, which is conducted by the Behavioral Health Commission. And this year, we will hold public hearings during the popular May is Mental Health Month outreach events. We'll have the regional committees right now are planning those events. The dates up here on the slide are confirmed. We will make sure we get you, we have a save the date flyer. Miriam, if we make sure we get that to this group. So you can mark your calendars. To coincide with the in-person public hearings, there will be a virtual public hearing as well. Public hearing videos will be in English, ASL, and Spanish. They'll be posted 24/7 for 3 weeks over the same period, and feedback can be provided electronically or by calling a dedicated voicemail hotline. Next slide. When the plan is posted, this is where you'll find it. So you go to ruhealth.org, then pick the RUHS tab, choose Behavioral Health, and then scroll to choose the MHSA page. And so does my feedback do anything? Yes, it does. The crisis system of care is an example of that. At one time, our crisis system of care was limited to the psychiatric emergency room and law enforcement. The community said it wanted and needed more options. And over time, our crisis response options have expanded into the system of care that we know today, and it continues to grow as the community expresses need. Informed feedback is often the best feedback, and this starts with understanding the existing continuum of care and the related programs, and these can be found online. You can also share your voice with like-minded community members in a community advisory groups. Regular committee attendance increases your knowledge and provides a forum for discussion and making recommendations. We have the directory of those committees that includes the cultural groups I told you about, as well as others. So we'll make sure that you get those as well. Next slide. You can find out more about programs and services on our website by going to ruhealth.org, then pick the RUHS tab and choose Behavioral Health. And then that leads you to this next page. Click the slide. And And so you'll have a menu of options where you can learn more. So the CARES line is our central access line for services, crisis system of care for emerging needs, locations to find programs and services near you, our guide to service, which is a downloadable booklet. We have our mental health urgent care 24/7 voluntary walk-in needs, and then Take My Hand, which is a non-crisis support chat that was part of our last innovation plan. And then next slide, if you want to get email announcements on the public hearing, other MHSA plan program activities, you can get on our distribution list. So all of you are likely already on PEIs. That's how you got here today. But if you want to hear from the other areas of our MHSA team, this information is here for you. We can send the slide deck out so you'll have that information. Are there any questions so far about MHSA or what I've shared so far before I dive into a little bit about the BHSA? Anything so far? Okay, then let's keep going.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, I'm in school and I'm almost done. My is an associate of behavioral science. And I wish I can be able to collaborate or something, doing something. I want to do something now, but I don't know how I can be like volunteer or something helping. There's um here in Corona, I'm in Corona, and there's a RUHS clinic over here.
Mhm.
So I will be glad to help, and I'm interested in helping about trauma, especially in domestic violence.
Well, that's terrific. Congratulations on school for starters. And we're always looking for people that want to be a part of the behavioral health system. So a great place to begin would be through our workforce education and training program. They oversee our volunteers. So if you want to become a volunteer with the department and work at the Corona wellness program that's at Corona, you would start here with workforce education and training. They can get you to be onboarded as a volunteer and assist you in trying to find a place where you could practice some of those things and be a part of our service system.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and Dakota's adding her information in there and she wants to connect with you. So perhaps you guys can do that. Dakota is one of our cultural liaisons. Thanks, Dakota. Any other questions so far? Okay, then let's move to BHSA. And this is just a snapshot. The legislation is hundreds of pages long. Last year, the governor announced his intent to modernize the Mental Health Services Act. And because the MHSA was voter approved, a new proposition was required to change the law. The BHSA proposition narrowly passed in March of 2024, like half a percentage point passed. BHSA became law this month, January 2025, but also contains specific timelines to allow for the transition from MHSA to BHSA. So BHSA changes the components. Remember, we just gone over 5 of them. Now it's only 3: housing, full service partnership, and behavioral health services. So like MHSA, each component has its own intent, rules, and regulations. Next slide. Oh, yeah, this is what. The transition from MHSA to BHSA is called the Behavioral Health Transformation. So you might hear people say BHT, and that's what they mean, is exactly this. The practical application of any legislation is a process, and BHSA is no exception. The state is performing due diligence with BHSA, working with county reps to fine-tune the rules of the act. And this takes time, and sometimes can change as each county considers how the new rules will affect them. It also means that counties have to wait until the foundation of the rules are finalized before we really even know how to proceed. So I'm going to give you an overview of the status of BHSA transformation as we know it at this time. But some of these elements may change because nothing has been 100% finalized yet. So next slide. The guiding principles of the legislation shape the goals of the law, and there's been a philosophical shift that's focused on maximizing funding efficiency, reducing homelessness, and getting people off the street, and increasing accountability over the funds. So some of the other changes include MHSA focused on people with serious mental illness. BHSA expands that to also include people with serious substance use disorders. Primary goals of the MHSA were to reach people before they had consequences of a severe mental illness and to promote mental health recovery. BHSA focuses more on addressing the consequences of severe mental illness and intervening to prevent them from getting worse. It's like a subtle shift, but there's a shift there. Under MHSA, early intervention services were designed to prevent the onset of a severe mental illness. Under BHSA, early intervention services are designed to prevent disorders from becoming severe and disabling. Under MHSA, outreach was more general, meant to increase mental health awareness and reduce stigma. But BHSA outreach is more about reducing barriers to seeking care and connecting people to services. Next slide. There are key planning and reporting changes as well. Some of the bigger changes are highlighted here in red. This process of engaging community and getting feedback got bigger, and it includes very specific stakeholders. But the larger process only needs to take place every 3 years instead of every single year, like we do now. The MHSA plan will be replaced by what is called a county integrated plan. Instead of the plan document only containing progress reports on BHSA funded programs, the department is going to need to develop a much larger report that includes all programs for all funds received. And under BHSA, the state has greater oversight, such as directing plan revisions and also providing sanctions for late plan submission and other non-compliance. The new BHSA report or integrated plan will contain program information on all these funding sources. Whereas in the past, MHSA was reporting was only the purple section. So you see up on the left side where it says Prop 63 MHSA, our existing plan, the one I just shared with you, only has stuff in that purple. But going forward with BHSA, we're going to have a plan that includes all the services throughout this entire pie chart. So that 500 to 700 page plan is going to get a little bit bigger. So realignment funds, California realignment funds are state funds that are allocated to local governments to help cover the costs of programs that have been realigned from the state to local government. And that comes from sales tax and vehicle licensing fees. And then AB 109 is a community-based program to prevent recidivism for criminal offenders. Programs can include drug and alcohol treatment, mental health treatment, anger management, job training, and more. Okay, so as I stated earlier, this transformation is not a simple crosswalk from MHSA to BHSA. The colors on the slide represent how the funding categories in MHSA become split up in BHSA. So FSP, full service partnership, and housing were subcategories in the MHSA CSS component. You see them on the left side. Those two now have their own components in BHSA, but housing is defined differently. In MHSA, housing included housing support services like outreach and case management, but in BHSA, the housing component can only be used for developing physical housing or paying housing costs. Physical housing development costs in MHSA were under the capital facilities component. With BHSA, supportive housing and homeless outreach will move to FSP or the BHS component. The other two subcategories of MHSA CSS were general systems development, which included funds for crisis system of care and the criminal justice programs and outreach and peer programs. Both of those will need to move into the BHS component which becomes kind of like the kitchen sink component. Everything else goes in there. The BHS component will have the greatest demands on it and will most likely result in most of the program cuts unless other funding sources can be found. Most MHSA prevention has moved to the state under BHSA. Prevention at county level has been significantly reduced. The definition of early intervention has also changed from MISA to BISA and can include services that constitute our crisis system of care. The state will assume some workforce initiatives, but otherwise workforce development will come out of that kitchen sink, the BHS component. Some innovation funds have moved to the state, but our existing eating disorder plan funds remain tied or encumbered to that project until 2029. Any new innovation plans would come out of that BHS component, and all new capital facilities projects except for physical housing would also come out of that same kitchen sink component. So you can see there's a lot of stuff that's in there. Monica's asking, is criminal justice helping with victims of DV? I don't know. That's outside of behavioral health. I do believe that the DA's office has some supports there. But you'd have to look those up.
Diana, I think she was asking about the criminal justice programs under CSS when you were talking about MHSA. Is that? I think that's maybe what Monica's asking about.
So I don't think they have anything specific for DV, but certainly someone with a mental health diagnosis that is struggling with that would be part of their treatment and care. Next slide. So where is the department in this transition? Key department leadership attend a series of work groups with CBHDA, which is our primary advocacy group with the state on regulations like this. The state has released the first 2 draft modules of what will become the BHSA guidebook. These have been reviewed by department experts and feedback has been provided to the state, and there are more modules to come. The department has formed a work group chaired by Department Deputies Shannon McCleary Hooper and Jacob Ruiz, and this group will create an internal timeline, examine MHSA programs funding to ascertain which programs are at risk based on BHSA regulations and community priorities, develop a plan for the new BHSA stakeholder process, and prepare our system for the new operational and reporting demands. Riverside's progress is roughly in the same spot as other counties our size. This is the timeline that we're currently preparing for. The big change comes July 1st, 2026. What questions do you have? No questions. It was all totally clear.
I have so many, but I don't know where to start.
Oh, okay. Start at the beginning.
I know that, we all have our parts and our programs that we fit in helping our families and our communities. So I guess, for everybody, we're trying to figure out, will some of those continue, or will they need to kind of sunset and go away, or because I can see the bigger vision. I get it with the issue with the homelessness and housing and putting more funds directed towards that with that proposition is what people were looking at. But some of the programs I'm trying to figure out, how do they fit in, and do they, because this is, even though it looks like, oh, well, it's shifting somewhat, it looks like a pretty major shift. Yeah.
Yes, Mary Jo, it is, especially for us in this space, because there is no more PEI in the new BHSA. I can't answer your question with 100% certainty because the department is still in the process of sorting through it all. But what I can tell you is that prevention is no longer funded at a county level through BHSA. So as we're shifting and looking at the new behavioral health service component, that third category, the kitchen sink category, half of that category has to be early intervention. The other half can be a variety of other things. Early, and that's it. There's no prevention line item in there. So if the department can find funding elsewhere, right? So that's why I can't fully answer it. I can say that BHSA is not going to fund it. Now, whether or not we as a county can, that's a bigger question. And so that's where some of our, really having to refine and look through all these things before we can make those final statements. And early intervention, like I said, the definition has adjusted a little. So the target group is a little different than even our early intervention folks right now are targeting. So we will keep you posted as we know. We're in boat with you.
I know. It just, when you look at it, it makes you take, at least I'm looking at it going, oh my goodness, this is a big undertaking. I mean, for your department, just looking at all of what is kind of expecting in that shift,
Yeah.
even though it looks like, oh, well, there's time, that time's going to go by so darn fast. It's just unbelievable. So anyway, I know you will keep us posted, but that was my thought. I mean, I was like going, uh-oh, this is a major change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah. Let's see. Rob's asking, I saw that peer services and outreach were not in the BHSA list. Were they going to be cut or shuffled in the kitchen sink category? It's a good question, Rob. It's not called out in BHSA the same way as it was in MHSA. But there is, like I said, it's the same answer with Mary Jo. I wish I had more answers for you all. Trust me, my team and I struggle with this as we're trying to make heads or tails of next steps. I know that the department values and prioritizes peer services, so we're going to be looking at how we best meet the need. Outreach and engagement is called out in the BHSA, and outreach and engagement specific to Medi-Cal recipients that need behavioral health supports. So again, outreach looks a little bit different than how we talk about it here in PEI. But the new BISA does call it out specific for individuals who would meet criteria for services in our system. I hope that answered your question as best I'm able. And Donna, has there been discussion yet about what PEI programs get prioritized or who will do that? Yeah, we're working on it, is my answer to that at this time. So we haven't, we are taking a look at what we think currently is able to be funded under the funding, right? So there's a couple layers to this, right? There's what will meet the regulatory requirements, because that has shifted, as Mary Jo pointed out. What do we have that will meet that? And I believe we have several programs that do. They may look different than we currently implement them in terms of like who we serve and how we allocate the funding for that. But the second part to that question is you can see the way that they've reallocated the dollars, there's less for services. So the question is, one, what meets regulatory requirement? Two, is there enough money to cover all of that? And I don't have the answers to those yet. That is part of what the department is doing with its internal committees that are recently formed. And so we're beginning these explorations and conversations now. Shirley says, I just hate to see the fruit of our hard work of previous years going sour. For example, how are we going to promote suicide prevention? Yes, Shirley. That resonates with me very much. I don't know if you all know this or not, but I was a part of the original rollout of prevention and early intervention in 2008 when those funds were distributed by the state. PEI didn't exist in Riverside County. And then there were three of us. That it was me, and you may remember Janine Moore, who's now our children's deputy, but she was the PEI supervisor at the time. And then we had a clerical support, Cynthia, and it was the three of us developing the whole stakeholder process, writing the plan, submitting it to the state for approval back in 2009, and then taking an approved plan and rolling it out and implementing services across the county. It has been my work for the past 20 years. So I hear you, Shirley. And all I can say is that I'm continuing to do the best I can to promote this suicide prevention work. I know that addressing suicide is still a priority. It's just the focus of BHSA dollars are more about what are we doing to support individuals with active thoughts of suicide, as opposed to more education and broad stigma reduction. California Department of Public Health has been the state agency identified to receive that 10% prevention allocation. They are doing their own kind of statewide stakeholder process to determine prevention priorities. And so I know a lot of my colleagues throughout the counties are attending those meetings and consistently promoting the need for those prevention dollars to come back to the local level. And all of that is still so unknown. They're not sure what they're doing yet either. So if there's opportunity for those meetings for community feedback and you run across them, I encourage you to go to them, share your feedback as a provider and as a community member about what you think the Department of Public Health should prioritize and how you want those funds to get distributed. Because they're still sorting all that out as well. Donna, what level of staff are included in the work group? So the work group is run by 2 deputies, co-chaired. And then of course, all the MHSA administration team is on there. So that's me, David, and Nisha. And then we have a variety of staff levels, a lot of program support staff, as well as supervisors, administrators throughout the department. And it's kind of, we have like a smaller work group and then a larger group that's doing this oversight of that group. And yes, Shirley, we will get you a copy of this presentation. We'll send it out to everyone. Other questions or comments? Okay, think it through. We're still here for a few minutes. Before we open it up to PEI provider updates, I just, next slide real quick. I just want to give you a save the date. Our next collaborative meeting next quarter will be April 30th via Zoom. You'll get the invite early April. I don't think we've identified what we're going to focus on in April, so that'll be a surprise when you get the email. So I just want you to mark your calendars, make sure that you save the time to come and meet with us. So if there are any other questions about anything we've shared so far, please ask them now or throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we can move on to hearing from all of you. I've talked enough. So Andrea, if you want to, you can shut down the slide. Yeah, so we can see each other better. And so if there are no questions, if there are any PI providers that want to share about upcoming activities, initiatives, any updates at all, the floor is yours.
Thank you. As I say, I will be proud of them. And I have a story about domestic violence survivor, and me and my daughter. And I've been sharing this in my church. And I've been doing like speeches at church, preventing domestic violence and educating people about that. And I wish we can have more help in promoting this in the churches. I do that. There's a lot of people, but they don't know much about it. And it's like a stigma about mental health in churches.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work we need to do with people who have a stigma about mental health.
Agreed. Thank you, Monica, for being brave and sharing your experience, not only here, but at your church and with other community members that need to know. That's amazing work and really important. your connection to your churches, I don't know if you're aware that I talked about those cultural groups. There is a group that's focused on interfaith and spirituality. Are you familiar with that group or a member of that group?
No, not yet.
Okay, so we'll make sure that we send out that contact information. Reverend Benita Ramsey runs that, and so she's one of our consultants. And since you have an interest in being a part of faith communities to share information, that may be a group that
Oh,
can that would be good for you to be a part of.
thank you. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Jose Flores with Strengthening Families. I kind of want to change that cat rating we did at the beginning after our meeting here, but we are having a couple groups starting soon. One in Paris on February 13th with Velvety Unified School District, and we're currently working with a few more school districts: Hemet, San Jacinto Unified, and San Jacinto Valley Academy, and we're starting another class on Tuesday, February 18th. So right now we have about 23 families signed up for both. Our goal is going to be 30, and so yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Awesome, Jose. And how can people send folks to you if they know someone? This is families with kids between the ages of 6 and 11 in those areas that may
Yeah.
benefit from the class. How can they get a hold of you?
That's a good point. I can put something in the chat, my information in the chat, and then
That'd be great.
if you're at all interested, yeah, feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Yeah, and you guys can also check out the PEI website at ruhealth.org. Go to the prevention and early intervention, community services. I think our services is what the tab says. And California Family Life Center, which is where Jose works, is listed, and that's another way to get it. Thank you, Donna, for that statement. We appreciate it. The same goes out to all of our PEI contract providers that are doing that work out there in the community. Erlen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I just want to give a shout out. So today is officially Chinese New Year. But last weekend, the Inland Chinese Association did a great job, and as well as APCTC doing outreach. We did get rain on Sunday, but everyone was a trooper being there. So the next event is the Eastvale Lantern Festival, which is February, oh gosh, I think it's 15, 16. It's that weekend, right after Valentine's. So, so if you all can come out, while we are still able to do community outreach and education from a preventive level, then we might as well take advantage of getting the word out there to remove stigma. So just want to again thank our Apitan Alliance partners who are continuing to do the work. Yes, as well as Paris Valley Filipino Association. We were all like on the same row, doing a great job with all the work for our community. So thanks to all of them, and then come out on for the Eastvale Lantern Festival.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And I don't know what I'm thinking is, I know an old, what do you call it? Like an old wives' tale that when it rains on a wedding day, it's supposed to mean that it's going to bring you wealth or rich wealth in some way, but maybe not monetary, but good fortune. And so perhaps raining at the Lunar New Year might bring us some of that good fortune as well.
Yeah.
For the year to come. We're going to need it this year.
I've been reflecting on the symbolism of snake, and because it's year of the snake, so we know so far how the negative part of the snake has been affecting us, the whole nation. But snake also represents transformation and resilience. So if you can imagine like how snake changed their skin and then reborn and all of that. So I'm hoping for the more positive symbolism of the snake rather than the negative part, which we are all suffering from right now, the anxiety with the new government that we have right now. And so, but it's kind of one of those things. What else is also true? So both of those are true. So we have to just lean into both the struggle and the strength that we have as communities.
Yes, thank you for that. Other announcements. And this can be anyone, community providers, PEI providers, department staff, anybody that's got something they want to share for this group. Dakota.
Hi. The Diana mentioned the cultural competency program, and let me lower my hand before I forget. Excuse me. And of course, we have 10 of us liaisons working with different marginalized groups and intersectional groups. We normally meet the second Wednesday of the month in the morning for the CCRD meeting, Cultural Competence for Reducing Disparities meeting. This month, the second Monday falls on a holiday, probably President's Day or something. So we're meeting the day before on the 11th. If anybody, and it's open to the public, if anybody would like to attend, we would love to hear from you. And then you can, I'm gonna share just the agenda real quick so you can see what we do. Just shoot me a message. My email is in the chat, and I can get you hooked up to be on the list to receive invites. But this month, in addition to our Native American opening, we're going to do Black History Month because March, and and also a special on veterans care. So I just want to show that. So the meeting is going to be on the 11th rather than on the 12th of February. I'm sorry, February is Black History Month, and I will unshare that now. Yeah, reach out to any of us liaisons and we'll get you squared up so you can get an invite to the meeting. They're always very interesting culturally.
Thanks, Dakota. Other questions or comments or announcements?
Well, I might as well mention something very, very happy. On April the 26th, we're having our California Family Life Center extra wonderful event with a dinner and a live auction. And we can send the information out. It will be at the Pachanga, and it's to benefit all the children, youth, and families that we serve in all of our programs in a variety of ways. So,
Awesome.
yeah, and this year's theme is sports. So you can wear your favorite team or however you want to show up, pretty casual, and would love to have anyone that's interested to be a part.
Awesome, thanks. If you have a flyer and want to drop it in the chat, please feel free to do so.
Sure.
We'll make a reminder that Directing Change annual film contest, young people between 14 and 25, the due date is March 1st. So if you know young people that would want to be a part of it, you can connect them to the Directing Change website so they can enter. Other announcements? All right. Well, I do appreciate so much you all being here each quarter and listening to me rattle on for a while. We are just so glad to be doing this work with you, and we will continue to do it as best we can until they tell us we can't anymore. So we are looking forward to seeing all the work that's coming up this year. Please be on the lookout. Miriam will follow up with an email that not only has our minutes and the recording today, but will include the groups for CCRD and how you can get connected to each of these subcommittees we talked about, as well as the public hearing flyer that's part of our May is Mental Health Month, so that you can hear a little bit more about the MHSA plan and provide any feedback should you wish to. And if there isn't anything else, thanks so much and have an awesome afternoon, everybody.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.